from the Digital Media Center on the campus of Southern Oregon University in Ashland, Oregon. This is Ramping Up Your English, an educational program for intermediate level English language learners. Here's your host for Ramping Up Your English, John Letts.
Welcome to Ramping Up Your English. Ramping Up Your English is for English language learners from all language backgrounds who have already begun the process of learning English as their second language. It's a program for people of all ages. If you're seeking greater English proficiency, this program is designed to help you reach that goal. Ramping Up Your English is a support program for English learners who have already passed the beginning stages of learning English. We take a content-based approach to helping you reach higher English proficiency. We use English to teach English. The theme for our first unit is Trains and Railroads. This is episode 30, segment 1. In our last episode, we explored Alaska on Alaska railroads. We looked at researching a state and writing a report on it. Today, we look at a country. Now, that won't take us far from Alaska because we're exploring a neighboring country, Canada, by rail. Now, we could say we're exploring Canada via rail, and we would be right in two ways. The short word via means by the way of or through the means of. So saying via rail communicates that we're using the rail system as the means to explore Canada. We also name Canada's passenger rail service when we say we're exploring Canada via rail. The passenger rail system in Canada is called Via Rail. That's its name. Just like the state of Alaska is a huge and varied state, Canada is an expansive and varied nation. Under our theme of trains and railroads, we'll explore a small portion of this country aboard a train called the Canadian, run by Via Rails in Canada. Now, I didn't take the Canadian all the way across Canada, so we'll only get to see the part of this great country from Vancouver to Jasper National Park. Still, there's a lot to see. Let's climb aboard for a Canadian adventure. The Transcontinental Railroad in Canada is legendary. Canada's Via Rail continues the legend. Stretching from Toronto to Vancouver, British Columbia, Via's transcontinental route offers rail passengers some of the greatest scenery in North America and access to Canada's Jasper National Park. The cross-country route was built east to west, but we'll start our trip in the Canadian clean, beautiful city of Vancouver. The city's big, but find the grand Pacific Central Railroad station. Go on inside and board Via Rail's Canadian for the trip of your life. It took very little time to leave the beautiful city of Vancouver behind. The morning light found us in the interior of British Columbia. It found me in the dome car, videotaping the countryside.
Yeah, this is hard to beat.
The Canadian has two dome cars in its consist. One is available to sleeping car passengers, the other to coach passengers like me. Seating is first come, first served, but I rarely sat. I mostly stood at the dome window, catching the scenery on videotape. The coach also had great views from its large windows. But I kept going back to the dome car, getting this lofty perspective as we followed the Fraser River toward the Rocky Mountains. I'm taking this journey in late March, still winter this far north. It's not unusual for railroad tracks to be located along rivers. It's often the easiest way through, and for me, it's a visual delight.
We pass one of Canada's great treasures, a frozen waterfall. As we made our way east, we saw more mountains. This bridge carries the Yellowhead Highway over the river. Note the great location along the river of this resort. Back in the coach, I was eye to eye with these snow-covered fir trees. Surprisingly, the trees here were free of snow, and the tree line gave way for a big view of Mount Robson, tallest of the Canadian Rockies. Its shroud of clouds makes it visible only 14 days a year. This was one of those days.
Got to be the biggest thrust was right here and pushed everything else. Reminds me of hearing a real good piece of music that if you're hearing it in person, it's much more effective than listening to a record. Whether it's John Denver or Jonas Joplin.
This was the view behind the train as we approached Jasper National Park. This is where I got off. The furthest east I could travel and still get back during spring break. Once I deboarded the Canadian, I was afoot in Jasper Park, free to hike around and see the park's natural wonders.
What a ride. Well, we'll return with a few tips on writing a report on a country and diving into the world of maps. But first, let's watch this. This is a Ramping Up Your English book review. If your English proficiency is nudging into the advanced level, you might be able to appreciate this high-quality book from National Geographic. It's entitled World's Great Train Journeys. As the title suggests, readers will learn about passenger trains in countries outside of the United States. One chapter I especially enjoyed was the one about the train through Mexico's Copper Canyon. I should warn you, though, reading this book might lengthen your bucket list. Reading is the most effective way to build vocabulary for intermediate language learners. Reading World's Great Train Journeys would be an exciting yet challenging experience for English learners. If nothing else, you'll enjoy the beautiful photographs. For Ramping Up Your English, I'm John Letts. Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English learners who want to improve their English proficiency. If that's you, you're in the right place. This is segment 2 of episode 30. In our previous episode, we shared some tips on writing a report about a state. Here's a few tips about writing a country report. Now, like states, countries have their symbols and their flags. In Canada's case, the maple leaf is the defining symbol. You can write that as national symbol of Canada is the maple leaf, or you can use the possessive form and write Canada's national symbol is the maple leaf, as you see it here on the screen. We can use the same sentence structure we used with the states when it comes to listing the symbols of a country. Find out the length of the Canadian coastline and use either of these forms to write about it. Both are correct. Not every language has the possessive form of nouns. Your home language may or may not use the apostrophe to show possession. Notice how the apostrophe is like a floating comma and comes between the noun and the S. Now, if the noun is plural ending in an S, the possessive is formed by putting the apostrophe after the S. But it's more common to see a singular noun form of the possessive, as in the sentence you're seeing here. The apostrophe comes before the S. The possessive doesn't change the noun to plural like a simple S added to the end. It's still one territory and it possesses mineral resources. Be sure to add that apostrophe. So there are two ways to communicate the same thought. You could use a prepositional phrase as in the first sentence, or you can use the possessive form of the proper noun Canada. Canada's flag features a maple leaf. Now, to avoid overusing the name of the country, you can use its possessive pronoun its. Canada's flag features a maple leaf. Its national symbol is the maple leaf as well. Notice that the possessive pronoun its does not have an apostrophe. So although the possessive is formed by adding an apostrophe and S to a noun, an apostrophe is not used for possessive pronouns. That's one of the crazy things about English. Now here's a list of possessive pronouns. Notice there are no apostrophes in any of them. My, your, his, her, its, our, and their. Now you can use these sentence frames to report on the feature of the country you research. The national blank of Canada is, and then you put whatever it is. Canada's national blank is, its national blank is. So be sure to mix them up so you're not always using the same form every time. You'll use the same rich description words for Canada as you did for Alaska, plus you'll use some new ones. Now let's see which descriptive words come to mind as we watch the westbound journey of the Canadian, leaving Jasper National Park toward Vancouver.
My 2 days hiking in Canada's Jasper National Park were rewarded with spectacular views and surprisingly pleasant weather. I had no car with me with which to get around, but I didn't need one. All these views were within walking distance. So was access to food and a warm place to sleep. The late March sunshine and crisp air were ideal for moving around under my own power. Crowds would come in the summer, but during my time here, I often found myself alone, just a mile or so from the train station. Speaking of trains, here's Via Rail's Canadian, the train that took me back to Vancouver. This switching yard ran right through the heart of the park. Returning one day from a hike, I had to wait for a long train of tank cars before I could cross and return to my hotel. As in the United States, the Transcontinental Railroad in Canada was an extremely challenging project designed to keep the country unified. The Canadian Railroad also provided a major push to create national parks and to transport passengers there. I had arrived at Jasper during spring break, and now I was returning to Vancouver and later to Eugene, Oregon, on the train. This was the last leg of the cross-country trip. Some passengers had been on the Canadian for 3 days, and we still had another day to go. As soon as I could, I scampered up to the dome car, where I got this view. At the rear of the train is a dome viewing car, like the one I was in. This one was for first-class passengers in the sleeping cars. I was in the coach dome car. The dining car separated the coaches from the sleeping cars. The dome car allowed me to see the oncoming freight train on parallel tracks. Below the observation deck, the dome car offered snacks for sale and tables at which to enjoy them. The dome car offered more than a great view. It was a place filled with excitement and positive energy. Great place for children and families. At one point, we skirted a large frozen lake.
Oh, like, is that a glacial moraine? Is that a glacial moraine?
On the other side of that mountain, there's another valley at its headwaters of the Columbia River.
Really?
They're all very close together.
Wow. So I'm trying to imagine it when that's thawed. It's probably that deep blue kind of color, that bluish green.
On the return trip, we passed the eastbound Canadian. You can see the dome cars. Jasper National Park to Vancouver is just a small segment of the Canadian's 4-day route, but it's a rich section, rich in scenery, conversation, and adventure.
Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English, an educational support program for intermediate level English learners. We take a content-based approach to improving your English skills. This is segment 3 of episode 30. A note for teachers: a thematic unit on trains and railroads presents ample opportunities to teach content in science, math, and social studies. One subject that comes to mind is geography and using maps. Amtrak features this map in the front of its national timetable. All the states are there, along with the capital cities and the train stations. Throw in a map puzzle and you get some enthusiastic, hands-on learning. Let's watch these kids with the U.S. map puzzle at the RVTV studios.
Okay. Let's look for Washington. Do all the sides first. Is Very key. Okay. Ooh, I found something. I found this. I found this. Russia. Oh, nice. Russia. We need Washington. Guys, tell me if you find any pole of the North Pole. Florida. I only found Florida. We will. Indy, we will. Washington. Wow, this is fun. Wait, where's Florida? Oh, they're double-sided. They're double-sided. Which side do you want to do? Maine. Oh, they're double-sided.
I think one's the globe and one's the United States. So let's
No, if this is Maine or not.
One's the globe and one's the United States. That one's the globe because that's Russia.
No, this is the globe.
Flamingos. Oh no, wait, what?
This is the globe. This is the globe. See?
What's this? Argentina. Okay, wait. Yeah, that's the United States. Yeah, one side's the. What about? Because look, Atlantic Ocean.
Wait,
guys,
no.
try to find
these
one.
Look
Guys,
at the back.
Guys, try to find
Yeah,
these pieces.
do the front. Oh my front.
Hey, those two pieces. United States.
Excuse me. I have the United States. Okay, the United States is together. Okay. Of the 13
I got
original
Nevada.
colonies.
Nevada.
Hey, who wants to sing the song of this in 50 states?
I don't know the song.
Oh, 50 nifty United States of the 13 original colonies. Shout 'em, scout 'em, tell all about 'em. One by one, into the blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana,
Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Florida, South Carolina, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas,
here's where we live.
Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin,
Tell me
if you find Nevada. Ooh, I got this.
Nevada.
I didn't even realize I got this. Dimpa, I got this.
Nevada.
Ooh, Nevada. Found it.
Oregon.
This is hard. Oh, here we are.
Oregon.
I'm doing it. I'm not in.
The United States thing got broken.
Oh,
What's this?
What United States? Oh, put that back together.
Very
Oh, I got the
yay.
bottom.
North Dakota.
I got the bottom. I got the bottom of the puzzle. See? I got this.
What about the United States?
I got Montana.
Sorry, United States, we're leaving you alone. This goes somewhere right here.
Ah, yes. No.
I don't know what this spells. You spell it.
Kansas, Virginia. Kansas. Oh, Kansas. I don't need Kansas.
South
We're not
Dakota.
in Kansas anymore.
I need Pennsylvania.
Where's Pennsylvania? I found Pennsylvania. I found Pennsylvania.
Here.
Be nice to your
It's
little
the globe.
brother.
My little
I know,
brother.
but there's no place to put it.
It's not my little brother.
Be nice to your brother.
Older brother.
Wait. Jimba, move your arm. Jimba, move your arm. I'm getting bigger.
There we go.
I got it.
Stop it, Liz. I found Florida. Is that good to me, Florida? Here's Florida.
Oh, Florida.
Given enough time, I think they would work it out and have a map of the United States to show for it. Students of all ages could come away with a vast knowledge of the United States geography by watching all the episodes in this unit. Throw in some instruction on working with maps, as we do in future episodes, and you'll have students finding cities, states, provinces, and countries using latitudes, longitudes, degrees, compasses, and continents all at the same time. This simple outline map can serve to trace Amtrak routes and name state capitals as well. Or, if you're working with a group, you can lay out the Amtrak routes as you experience them in the video clips. And we'll be back with more content possibilities right after this. There are lots of positive things happening in the world of education in Southern Oregon and Northern California. We spotlight those in a program called Adventures in Education. Adventures in Education looks at positive things happening for our children and for our community in the education world right where we live. Adventures in Education can be seen twice a week, Saturdays at 3:30 p.m. and Thursdays in the evening at 7:30. Join me, please, for Adventures in Education. I'm John Letts. Welcome back to Ramping Up Your English. Our unit is Trains and Railroads, and this unit is full of possibilities. How about some math? Learning about time and distance is a natural fit, along with those crazy problems we practice in high school algebra class. You know, a train leaves Chicago going 70 miles an hour. At the same time, a train leaves Los Angeles going 50 miles an hour. Where will they meet? Where will the two trains meet? Well, anyway, a unit on trains affords many possible learning experiences across a great many content areas. And that's one advantage to using a content-based approach to learning a second language. I remember with some level of pride that my ESL students were the only ones in their classroom to know about the Irish potato famine that brought so many people from that country to America, and a later group that could actually name the NASA space missions associated with planets in our solar system because they had learned English through content units on human migration and space in my class. I'll include a list of content that can be associated with our unit on trains and railroads on my website, letscreate.org. That's where you can watch today's episode in full or in segments. Just go to the episode 30 page under Ramping Up Your English. Drop me a line using the Contact Us form and tell me what you think of the program. You can also view this program and even download it for video on demand at archive.org/details/roguetv. Choose Ramping Up Your English from the sidebar on the right, or choose my name, John Letts. Now, if you live in Southern Oregon, you can watch this program on Channel 15 and others on the Ashland Home Network, or on Channel 182 on Charter Cable in other parts of Southern Oregon. Now, in other parts of the country, the channels will vary. Contact your local public access or educational TV station for the channels and schedules. I want to thank my volunteer crew, my announcer Bob Ayers, RVTV, and I want to thank you, our viewers. See you next time on Ramping Up Your English. I'm John Letts.
You've been watching Ramping Up Your English, a support program for intermediate level English language learners. Learn more. Visit our website at letscreate.org. You can also watch or download today's program at archive.org/details/roguetv. Join us next time on RVTV Voices for Ramping Up Your English.